I'm Julia Lebrao Sendra. I'm a French printmaker. Welcome to my exhibition in Dhaka at Alliance Française. So the name of the exhibition is Nalini. So we can start it from here, which is the main concept of the exhibition. The whole exhibition was to try to understand the relationship between the riverbank people and the Buriganga River, and how the relationship is broken and the link is broken between the people that work and live next to the river and the river itself, and why it gets so polluted and dirty throughout the days. So there's this philosopher, Albert Green, that has a concept since 2003 that from where my whole exhibition unfolded, which is a solostalgia. The concept is about when there is an environment that gets destroyed by either climate change, climate accidents, or industry and human activity. The person that used to love its environment feels that the environment is so destroyed that it can't be emotional attached to it. It's too painful. So it stops looking at the environment and stops taking care of the environment. So this is the philosophical concept really that the exhibition is rooted from. And I came up with the doodling. So all the image you'll see presented are not drawings nor painting, they are printmaking. And the whole process behind it is really like long and body painful, but the images are quite simple and quite abstract. So I came up with the doodling because for me it was a good way to depict and represent this solostalgia concept, which is like when you doodle and when you scribble through your human activity, you come to put on paper your anger, your frustration, your mistakes, but also the lack of attention, and you scribble around, and from that the white paper gets messy. So the whole concept you're gonna see here are wood block prints from that doodling movement. And some of the doodles are quite simple like this, but then by multi-layering the prints and the doodles, you get a blacker and darker image. So this is also about how one can destroy a surface, but by the action of it, it can recreate a new surface, so going from white to black. For the colored image that you will see in the show, they are the same wood block prints, but then I came up with a new approach to it, using the printing technique and the fact that printing ink is greasy. It will reject automatically whatever is water-based, and it will attract whatever is dust. So I've been using pigments from Bangladesh. There is 3 wet pigments, black, yellow, and henna. The black refers to the tanneries where my residency took place in Hazaribagh. The yellow is turmeric dye, and it refers to the marriage ceremony we have here in Bangladesh. And henna is also from here, and it's this act of embellishing for a temporary and a short while one's skin. So I used those 3 wet colors, and then I used 4 dry pigments, which is, oh, I forgot, there is also green wet pigment, which is from the flag, the color of the flag, and 4 dry pigments, red because of the flag, and blue, orange, and pink, which are the rickshaw colors mostly. So using the rickshaw colors was also a way to refer to Dhaka, Bangladeshi, but also the fact that the rickshaw in the city, if we go on a slow-mo, they also do a doodle in the city. So this doodle refers to a lot of things. It refers to the chaos of the city, to the solostalgia principle, but also to the Dhaka wires and the pollution. So it's a lot of things from the territory here, but also referring to the Buringanga as a way to graphically depict water movement. So from afar, it has all those concepts, but from close up, it's really like water movement and the riddles of water. So my work is always about multi-layering interpretation, and the viewer can access to this complexity of viewing one very simple image, which is based on doodles. So here we have other colors prints. I call them attraction and rejection because of this principle of the ink attracting the dust of the pigments or rejecting the wet pigments that I applied to it. So it's both a printmaking process, which is like a multi-process of many images that can be printed, but then by hand I add the colors, so it makes the print unique. And also sometimes there are unfinished spaces in the prints, which gives space to the image to breathe, but also for the viewer to imagine what's the rest of the territory that's in the image. Here we have earlier works from the beginning of the residency. Since my concept wasn't really clear, I used all the medical package I took from France because my mom was afraid I would get water poisoning, food poisoning, would have trouble with the pollution. So it's also a way to project danger in an unknown territory and then react with the territory in its immediate. So here we have kind of a diary of my first weeks, discovering Dhaka, discovering the Buriganga, discovering the people. And you'll see there is like many water references on how to make water cleaner and how to make water drinkable and accessible to people. We can go to the last work I've done for the residency program, which are litho prints. This work is a more symbolic work. I took as a reference something from my culture, which is the Italian Renaissance painting that use for the holy word, when especially those paintings that depicts the scene where Angel Gabriel announces to Virgin Mary that she's pregnant with baby Jesus. So the holy words are always expressed into a ribbon, and they're always gold. And here I use this metaphor of speech and words with the ribbons, but they're stayed blank. And as you can see, the first image is like a communitary speech, but the words are lost. And then the speech becomes a single speech and lonely, and it gets attached to what's left living in the river, which are the plants, to finally drown alone in the darkness of the water. So this is like the concept of how a community loses its way of power to speak as one, and as this is dissolved, the individual feel hopelessness and are unable to act upon their environment. Here you can find some drawings I did while doing the research for the prints. So it was before I came up with the doodle, I was researching some patterns that really got me triggered and in the city. So we can find the electricity knots that you can find also live in the exhibition, but also the braid, because there's two reasons why braiding. Is one, because the river is called the braided river because of its topography, but also braiding is like a feminine and collective knowledge. You can't learn how to braid your hair alone. Something that someone taught you how to do it, and something that you do in a women environment and family environment of taking care. So this is one of the most important image that I came up for the exhibition. This being the river, and hands being the one that makes the braid. But since there are many people, we have to unify in order to have a whole shape of a braid. But also, if you look it from afar and you draw a circle around it, you have a peace and love symbol. And then there is also the workforce that work and live at the river. And those workforces are, for me, represented by the gamcha and the lungis they wear. So this is really the base of the whole work. Then I came up with those ready-made sculptures. So those sculptures are only found objects that I gathered in a public space where people can gather, but also where people can date. And for me, it was really important to acknowledge those spaces because they're really missing in Dhaka. And those spaces are where people can share thought, share emotion, discuss, plan, gather, and where there is still liberty of free speech. Although those spaces are mostly used by men, so I had this rule that I would take more manly objects, which are matches boxes and cigarette box. I would only pick them up if there was like a feminine attire to it, so textile, bangles, and tips. So by combining the two together is also a way to represent the society, the full society of Dhaka, but also to bring women back into the public space. This sculpture will kind of sum up the whole idea of this small series of sculpture. From afar, you can see like a woman in a sari, like a human figure and womanly. It can also be like a marriage gown, but also it's a way how the rickshaw ties the gamcha in order to clean their forehead when they're sweating. So the mirrors are representing sweat. So it's always a double lecture of it. We can go to the textiles now. And with this installation and the electricity nodes, it was to make a dialogue between the concept of solostalgia that is like starting to pollute even the outfit of the people, but also to talk about how the city is conceived to go against fluidity and communication. So those are represented by the knots that is everywhere in the city. And I think they dialogue quite well with this doodle concept. But to finish in a more hopeful point, I made this central sculpture, which is 108 carved soap. So it's a variation of soaps that I carved. I used soap that people would have in their household. And the scent that it brings to the exhibition is like a common scent that people are used to have. And at the opening, I invited the people to choose one soap and to wash their hands with it. So it was also a way to allow people to touch the artwork, but also to destroy it in a way. So here we can see that some soaps are a bit more messy because they have been used, but also that some soap broke. And this is very important for me because the hand has the power to destroy, but also to recreate. So by letting people use the soap is also giving them the power to decide either they take care of something and recreate a new shape for the sculpture like this one, or they acknowledge the power of destruction as this one. And then we finish up with the gamcha, which is connecting with the community from the river bank. And that's it. Welcome.